Well, hello and welcome. This is another Blender and grease pencil session where I'm making kind of sprightly artwork. I've done this previously in the last video. I was working on this drawing. I've made a little bit of progress since then, but it's still mostly the same shape of the artwork I did previously towards the end of the piece. One of the big things that you can tell is different is actually that I made this character a lot more femme. I'm going to kick off some music. Go with this. This is some nice music by Encrypted Whispers. I'll probably leave a link to that in the... I'll do it right now. Here's a link to Encrypted Whispers, which I'm leaving in a live chat in case you want to listen along. Or at the future time, since I'm playing it now. And presumably that's going through. It looks like it is. I'm going to turn that down a little bit. It's just kind of background music. Let me know if the background music is nice to have on. I don't know. Anyway, let's see here. So, what we're doing is... You know what? I'm not going to have the background music on. I don't think I'm a background music person. I think I've decided live. But you can listen to that music later if you like. The piece that we're doing here is, once again, grease pencil based. It's in Blender, so if you watch the previous video, you'll see how I've been showing off how Blender is, both a 2D and a 3D art tool, but we're primarily this time using it for 2D stuff. I have done other 3D stuff with it. This is not the first Goblin piece of artwork I've ever done. Back in the day, I worked on a project called Media Goblin, which I co-founded, and I made this piece of artwork for a crowdfunding campaign we did, which was the mascot Gavroche. The goblins that we have in Spritely are a bit different looking, a little bit kind of more simplified and cute, but have some of the same elements. But they're a little bit more round, I suppose. So one of the things I've done that I didn't have previously is I decided to make this character a bit more femme. So to give you an idea of the difference of where it was previously, if I turn off this and I turn off this, you'll see the character was previously a little bit more masculine or non-binary, just like kind of straight up, maybe even genderless. But I decided that this is not necessarily one goblin, but a variety of goblins, and I've kind of always liked the idea of them being a little bit gender fluid, so I decided to make this one look a little bit more femme. So one of the other things that I did here is I have, as always, I kind of sketch my way up. So I had, I started out with the sketchier version and then sketched over it. One interesting feature in Blender is that there is something called, there's masks, which a lot of programs have. So to be able to hide the previous parts of the skull and so on and so forth, I drew this mask. But how to use those is a little bit unintuitive, I find. Because by default, the mask is actually, this is clearer if I turn down the background color in the world. You can just see the mask is actually, we just see the color right there. The reason for that is that you have to kind of draw with a opaque material in order to be able to mask, but you don't want the masks to show up potentially. So the trick is to just turn the mask down and it'll still mask things. And then on the particular layers that we want to be masked, what you do is you go over here, click on masks, and then basically add the mask and select it from the list, the particular layer you want. So that's what I've done here. Let's see here. I suppose the Next thing we want to do is so that was just the background was just for demonstration, but one of the other things you'll notice with the background turned down is that I've now actually blocked out the colors for this character, and that's what a lot of what we're going to do on this call on this particular stream is do color blocking. And so sometimes it actually is helpful to put the world color in an opposite area or a different area from what you're going to be drawing in, and that's what I've done here. I've also added groups as a new feature in this version of Grease Pencil, certainly not an unusual feature to 2D or even 3D art tools in general, but being able to have layered groups was not something that existed previously. You can find them with this button here. So now lines are all in one area. We also have a fill colors section. So the owl base is here. Although that's interesting. It seems that not all of the owl is on the layer I intended it to be. I wonder... Yeah, indeed, some of this owl's head appears to have been on the wrong layer. It turns out this is a good opportunity for us to show how to fix this, actually. We're currently in draw mode, but if we switch to edit mode, I'm going to start selecting things. Now I can select things using this tool up here to grab things. But what I actually am going to prefer to do, and I'm going to turn off auto lock in active layers. So I can just grab one of these vertices, and you can switch between vertices or strokes here. Actually, if I grab the stroke, it actually grabs the whole thing. Another way to do this is to grab an individual vertex like this, and then press Control L, and it'll grab everything that's linked. So all I'm going to do is, with that grabbed, I'm going to press M, and I'm going to move it to the right layer. So that's the, I guess I called it owl body base, which is maybe not the best, base fill. That's what it should be called. But anyway, it should be moved there now, and indeed now that properly turns off. So we're going to do that with some of the other character stuff. So why don't we do that with the owl's beak as a simple next one. So I'll say owl beak fill, and I'm going to switch back to draw mode, and I'm going to create a new material for that. So this says owl fill. I'm going to rename that to owl body fill, and then create a new material which we will call, I'm going to duplicate it and call it owl beak fill. Select. Well, you know, this is kind of interesting because the Hoot owl in the pixel art is kind of a purpley beak. Is that what we want? I don't know. But why don't we start with it? With something that's about here-ish, and then we'll decide on that later. So here I've got fill and not stroke selected for drawing. I'm using Control and the kind of middle mouse button equivalent on my tablet button to zoom in and out really quickly, by the way. So I'm going to just start drawing. And, oh, is that right? You know what, something I didn't do? The strength is currently set at 60%. At 60%. I don't want that. I want it to be darker. But actually, it's still not dark enough because the pressure is on. And for this fill, I don't want the tablet pressure to affect it. So I'm going to just start drawing it out. And one of the nice things about having this be in a material is that then I can very easily switch out what the color is. I could choose to go with a more traditionally color, or maybe I could choose to go somewhere in between. And I'm probably actually going to use kind of some shading effects to make it kind of in between a purple and an orange when I start doing that. So that's good enough for right now. But you'll notice I was a little bit sloppy here. So one nice thing is we can choose to, by default, if we switch over to sculpt mode and we start moving this around, it's going to move everything. And that's not what we want right now. So there is a nice feature where you can click over here and you can go to auto lock inactive layers. This kind of acts the way that you would expect in most paint programs, and you'll notice that when something's selected, it's unlocked and everything else is locked. So now if I do that, I can just kind of use a sculpt tool to kind of get closer to the edges, and that allows me to be a little bit sloppy when filling out the base shape, but then fix it later. And I'm pretty happy with that. So I'm actually I've decided I'm gonna call this beak and talons fill. I'm gonna use the same layer for talons. I don't see any particular reason to have a different layer for that. So I'm gonna create a new material. I'm gonna use a beak fill again as a basis. I hit the copy button. And I'm going to type talons fill. I'm going to make these a bit more orange. And then I can start. And then if I want to switch this later, I can. So I'm going to start filling that in. I see that we've got one commenter from Corsentin, as I'm gonna guess how to pronounce that, who left a nice comment on the previous video saying, howdy, this is looking nice. Thank you. I really appreciate that. So this stream is gonna be, I think it's gonna be about about an hour long, and then I'm gonna break for lunch and to shovel our driveway. And you know, I think I misnamed this material. I don't think that the feet are called talons. I'm pretty sure that's what the claws at the end are called. So I'm gonna rename that. But I don't remember. But anyway, but now we've got some claws here, so actually maybe I do need a talon fill. I should look this up. Right? Talons are okay, it is a claw. So the claw is, but the, yeah, okay, so I guess it is technically the hooked structure that's considered the talon. Whatever. Oops, sorry, I bumped my my microphone. I probably left an unpleasant noise on the stream. So I'm gonna call these talon fill, and we'll make those pretty close to white. Yeah, keratin all the way down. So true. All right. Which kind of brings to mind that there really wasn't any particular structure left for that drawn on this side as in terms of outlines, but we'll just fake it. All right. Well, that's looking pretty good. I think now what I want to do is I want to add the spots. So same thing. Clone. And then owl spots fill. You can see I'm not very careful with like using the same, just not that careful in general on my organization. I probably should be more careful. Anyway, I guess these are happening on the same layer too. I just don't see any reason to separate this out to a different layer. So maybe I'll actually rename that layer shortly. It's really that just that the body I wanted to be separate. You know, I think it looks a bit better if this is closer to. I think it might also be that I need to change the how strong or opaque those other things are. One thing I don't love in grease pencil is sometimes I wish when I stop drawing that there was like a more curved point, because what you can see here is it just leaves a line right there, and then sometimes I feel like I need to kind of manually edit the kind of smooth out the kind of jagginess that ends up happening with the end of the fill. Maybe that's just me. Nice. Looks pretty good. Next, I'm going to do these eye spaces right here. I'm just creating a ton of materials, aren't I? Okay, so I'm going to call this eye circlets. Ooh, I accidentally changed the previous one. I forgot to copy. We'll go with a lighter, very light, very unsaturated color here. It's still kind of purpley. All right. Let's go. Yeah, it's pretty sloppy. Pretty sloppy. But easy to fix my sloppiness. And once again, look at that. It's just this big gap between here and here. Is that even the right one? Which one am I working on here? What even happened? Okay, yeah. Yeah, look at that. I totally messed up the edge of this. That's part of the thing. Never would have noticed if I hadn't gone into edit mode. All right. That's kind of good enough. So I might want some more spots here. So what I can do is hit, I have it bound to F3. I don't remember if it's a default, but I'm going to type subdivide for subdivide stroke, basically. See right there. And that gives me a lot more spots to play or vertices to play with. Now I can more finely tune this shape. And I like that. That looks pretty good. Here we go. Yeah, that's pretty nice. Yeah. Looking pretty good. All right. So another thing you can do, by the way, if you wanna kind of view this from the zoom out, zoom in, you can always split your view and kind of have the zoomed out view on one side, just so you can keep in mind what it looks like from the whole thing, and then focus on the details over here. That can be helpful getting in, because when you're this zoomed in, it's easy to lose track of what's going on with the bigger thing. Here we go. Continuing with my sloppy fills. Another thing we can do. So here is an area where I'm not super happy. Created this kind of unintentional jagginess. Here's another cool trick. I'm going to select these, and I'm going to hit smooth. And you can see it kind of, well, it did it too much. It kind of smoothed it right into a line. I think there's another way to do that. That one actually just did it too much. You know what? This time I'm going to do it with a manual tool, but I'm going to subdivide again between these. Oh, you know what? It's not even giving me a subdivision, is it? Between these. I'd have to bring this all the way up. So I guess these are technically not filled. That's an interesting thing. Even though it auto-fills between these two areas, this technically there's no fill between, there's no edge. See how there's an edge right here? And there's an edge here. There's no edge, there's no line between these two, but we can add one by hitting F to fill it in. All right, now I want to subdivide this. I'm going to do that a couple of times. There we go. Got more geometry to work with again. I'm going to do that down here too. Subdivide. All right, switch back to sculpt mode. We can kind of get the shape we want. Down here, I'm going to show off the other thing. There is a smooth tool right here. And see this kind of lumpy area? If I just whoop, it just smooths it right out. In fact, that was maybe a little bit strong. And reduce the strength of the smooth tool. There we go. So you can, when you're in the sculpt mode, the strength affects things differently than it does in some other things. So it's affecting the strength of these tools. So, and now I can kind of manually tweak it. And this may be even more obsessing than it's going to actually matter for this. But anyway, another color blocked out. And again, once the nice thing is that I can really, I don't have to be completely deterministic about what the colors are going to be yet, because I can change these later, right? Very easily in the material by taking this technique. Okay. So what do I want to do next? I think the eyes on the owl are next, and this probably isn't the most exciting stream, because doing fills are just such a simple process, and I think other people are faster at this type of thing than me. I don't have a steady hand. Sketching looks exciting, but does coloring things in look exciting? In many ways, this looks like kind of like a paint by number, a very simple coloring book exercise, right? But that's fine. So owl eye fill. So here, I switch back to draw mode, and I'm getting a lot of colors here, aren't I? So I'm going to duplicate this. I'm just going to drop the word circlets from it, and drop that right down, and we'll add a little bit of a kind of a bluish, blue-greenish dark hue to this. For no other reason than that sounds nice at the moment. Will it sound nice later? I don't know. Yeah. So this character has been through kind of some different iterations. The initial pixel art that I did was, the eyes actually. I'm thinking of doing a pixel art. Again, we've got two pieces. We've got two releases coming up, so I might be doing a separate piece. And so this character has shown up, in Circobon, the game we did. And here's that character right there. And it's also shown up the original. I'll just pull up the Hoot Fibonacci version, right? This is the original, the original character right here, and it had these really big eyes and it wasn't really clear if these were the circles around the eyes or if these were the eyes themselves. Here you don't have that at all, but that's also partly because in pixel art you don't have that level of abstraction. And when Tessa was doing artwork, she did some also fairly different things with this character. I've brought the character kind of as a hybrid position between some of the things that have happened previously in this particular iteration. Now, you know what? I'm realizing this right here missed something essential. these should also be colored, right? So that's pretty reasonable, I think, for blocking that out. I always feel like colors aren't that exciting at this stage. You're getting a shape of what the colors are, but I don't really get excited until I hit the shading. Like I don't really feel like colors look good to me until I start shading them. But maybe that's just me. But let's try turning up the background color again, because that'll help kind of get an idea of what this piece will look like, when it's done. So yeah, I like this. Although I'm thinking the background's going to be pretty different. I might even actually use the 3D properties of Blender to have. I'm thinking of sketching, kind of using a combination of grease pencil and 3D things to have kind of a natural landscape behind these characters with a forest and some mountains and stuff like that. Really make it clear that they're soaring up through the air and some clouds around them and stuff like that. Give this piece a lot more character in that way, right? Yeah. So I guess I would like a slight break from doing the color blocking. So here's another interesting thing. Well, for one thing, the way that I store these things, I use Git Annex, and this is right now these characters are being stored in my personal graphics sketches repository. It might move over to something Spritely related later. But so I use Git Annex to store my files, and what's nice about Git Annex is that it's actually you're able to store large files inside of Git, but it's actually storing them as symlinks to content addressed versions of files. So if you have a lot of old large files and you eventually want to drop some old content, you can. And it's possible to store really large things inside of Git Annex. So I'm using Emacs with the Git Annex extension for Maggot, which allows you to do various Git things. And so I'm going to use that to store an updated version. So I'm going to say color blocked most of the owl. And there we go. And I don't really have any public repository where I keep all my own like personal graphics. I just copy them out when I think it's interesting. Maybe I should, since all of my stuff ends up being free culturally licensed anyway. But I do kind of like the freedom to be able to work without, like, a little bit privately while figuring things out sometimes. But anyway, Git Annex is actually wonderful. Even in private repos, I like that. And by private, I think sometimes people get used to the idea of Git being something where you need to have something hosted on a server, and that's really not true at all with Git, nor with Git Annex. So something else that's fun to do, and I'm gonna just show this off a bit, is I'm gonna add a new layer, which I'm gonna call it color lines, which isn't a great name for it. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to switch over to the more boring solid stroke material. I'm going to turn back on pressure sensitivity, and I'm going to sketch in some colors. And here I'm going to rejoin this. So I'm going to click this out. And then, if you may remember, I showed how you can select between materials and color attributes here. So here I'm going to actually I'm going to sketch some shading just so that I can see how I might feel when this is when some more shading has been done. So I'm going to reduce the radius. I'm holding shift so I can do smaller increments of adjustments. So the line should be a bit smaller now. And that's working, but I think this is not quite the color I want. I think it's a bit too dark. So I'm going to increase it a bit. Right about there. Let's see now. Yeah, that looks pretty good. I'm not going to bother to get rid of the old ones. I'm just going to kind of include them together. And you know, here I'm adding something that's kind of akin to cross-hatching or something. But I'm actually being intentional about what color. And you can see this already has a lot more character just by having these lines sketched in, right? It looks much less dull. And if you compare it to the other foot, you know, this looks a lot more exciting already, right? So we'll do that over here. So you gotta choose where your lights are, and many artists, including myself, have kind of a default direction of lighting, and my default direction of lighting is like this direction, right? It's up and a little bit off to the right. It's kind of like where my brain goes by default. If I just start sketching a 2D scene and I'm not really thinking about things too much, my default is the sun is up and to the right. Why? I don't know. I started doing it when I was very young. Now it's just stuck that way in my brain. So now I'm gonna make it a little bit more dark lines here. And yeah, that's starting to look a little bit nice. That's looking good. Oh, good. I'm glad to hear some positive reactions to the colors so far. So yeah, I'm starting to like that, you know, and I can do the same for, you know, the lighter parts of the foot, obviously. Go. Although that looks pretty bad, actually. Bring this closer to the center. What would happen if I... See, that's too light. For that, I might actually switch out and switch mode of blend mode. So you can do these different blend nodes. So for example, multiply is often used for shading. But here I'm just using regular. Anyway, I'm not going to go much further than that. But one of the other things that you might notice about this is that sometimes, like here, if I turn off the, you know, I had done that sketch for the thumb stuff. If I turn it off already, a lot of character is lost, even though I don't actually want exactly these lines. So having some lines in your artwork and kind of bringing back the sketchy look after you kind of remove it is sometimes important. I've done that with line details here for adding some of these details in that were lost when similarly I had removed the sketch. So it's just to note that little details are important, and yeah. Okay, so right, that's not where I want to be. I want to be on the color lines area. I'm gonna make these. There we go. Got some more depth. That looks too gray. See, for there we do need to be deeper on the color wheel to get that kind of look we want. Okay, that looks pretty reasonable. I still want to add some lighting to it, but that it's like an okay start. And I'm going to use some more field materials on the shading as well in a bit. So what next? Well, I think, you know, I need to block out this character too. And we actually haven't had this character, this particular goblin, before. Sometimes we say the Goblins mascot, but really there's multiple Goblins mascots. So I should create a new, this is the Goblin primary skin. Because these characters actually often have two particular skin tones, because they have these little markings on their hands that David Revoix had added in the first version of these characters. So I'm going to go over here, and I need to choose what color this character is going to be. Well, I need to start with something. This is a goblin body fill. Right. It's going to be hard for me to not go with something purpley. I know, I do it way too much. I think we're going to have... Well, I'll just block it in and then I'll worry about it later. Let's just get it blocked in. Oh, nothing's happening. What did I do wrong? For one thing, I don't have material on. Okay. Why does the strength seem to be so low? Is that just really what this color is? Ah, this is back on again. I turned the pressure sensitivity back on. Alright, we want that off. For fills. At least for these fills. For other fills, we might want it on. And again, we don't have to really decide on the color yet, since Blender makes it very easy to switch out what the colors are in a material. You can experiment with it. I just need to get the shape blocked. So one of the reasons I'm spending so much time on this artwork is that this is a really major couple of releases for us. And it's going to be a time where we release a new version of Goblins and a new version of Hoot right back to back. And it's going to be the first one where Goblins actually runs on Hoot, which is the reason why the Goblin here is actually like going on an adventure and literally riding on top of Hoot character. That's a good one for a dial. Okay. And so I do, so figuring out this character, giving both of these characters a little exciting adventure where they're both participating together is important, because that's literally what we're working on doing. Shoot, that's okay actually. It's literally what we're working on doing with the this release. So I accidentally picked up my pen, and it ended the stroke right there. And that, you can see a problem that it creates is it's subdividing itself. So we're gonna, I filled this area between the two of them, and I'm gonna subdivide this again a few times. You know what? First, I'm gonna subdivide it. I'm gonna grab this one. And her hair is going to be covering her face, so it's going to have a different color that's covering that one. So it's fine to, it's going to be on a different layer. But I don't need these to all be the same fill. I can actually do multiple fills over this character. So it's fine if there's multiple overlapping fills here. Why is this one not subdividing? Alright, I'm gonna... It's a funny way to do things. That's what I'm doing. Fill. But now that I've started doing this and it's actually working reasonably okay, you know what? Even faster. Let's grab these, move the individual vertices in place. That's fine. Because I can subdivide them again and get it the way I want. And then I'll just do a different one for the ear. But you know, I think um, we're getting a getting close enough to the top of the hour where I think that this is I'm going to stop. And actually, the real reason is that I have to go to the bathroom. So we're going to stop it for here. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you had fun. And I'll do another one of these later. I'm always uncertain whether or not things are actually working. But I think we are. So let's see what's going on. Right now, what I want to do is I would like to add some scenery here to this whole little scene. Add some scenery to the scene. Yes, Christian, very very advanced. So I want to do this in a way that actually does capture. I don't know. I would really I think I would like to do is I would like to be able to make something where we have some stuff in 3D, but not too much of a focus on 3D. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add another grease pencil object. I'm back in object mode, and I'm going to do add grease pencil and select empty. You can also always do Shift A and then go to grease pencil, select empty, or use the add menu up here. And what you might notice is that I split the window up here. You can do this by grabbing in the corner and then pulling apart. You just kind of tear it. You can accidentally mistear, as I just did there, and that's fine. And the reason I want to do that is I just grab this new object, and what you can see is I can move this object. I'm going to move it over here, and I'm going to start drawing. I moved it back on the y-axis. In Blender, the z-axis is up, the y is front and back, which is the opposite, which is like different from almost every other 3D graphics program, where z is typically front to back as opposed to up and down. But I've gotten used to Blender. And the reason for that is that I want to be able to actually sketch some scenery here. And so, for example, maybe I want to do some mountains over here, have kind of a stream running along here. And I want to be able to draw without this, the bird and the main character is getting in the way of it. Now, as you can probably observe, I have not done this super well in that the stream should be getting smaller. I'm gonna fix that real quick. My goodness, this is a really large sized brush right now. So you can hit the F key to change the brush size real quick. By the way, I'm going to bump up the strength so I can move things around much quicker. So, because a perspective should be smaller in the distance and getting bigger over here. But actually, why should I be doing perspective myself? Why not let my 3D graphics program handle perspective for me? Because after all, we are in a 3D graphics program. That's what Blender is. But for right now, what I really want is I want to toggle on and off the visibility, kind of draw in something in the background to give me an idea of what the scene is that I would like. I don't care too much about this being good. I just want to get a sense that things work, that I can be happy with it. So that we've got the horizon out here, and then we want some other interesting things. Maybe there's this big rock over here, and why is there a big rock? Who knows? It could be something interesting about that big rock, right? And may have some other interesting rocks near it. There may be a forest over here, but this isn't going to matter too much because our characters are going to be in the foreground anyway, and that should not be a tree that big. What am I doing? See, I should really be letting the 3D graphics handle things for me, because obviously I have no concept of what the this forest should be like, right? In terms of, and what we might even do is we might even have this be blurred, right? We might draw this and then it might be blurred off in the distance. But right now I'm kind of doing the perspective manually, right? And I shouldn't have to. I should be able to have Blender take care of much of that for me, since again that's the type of thing that it's really built for. But maybe there's a house over here or something like that. So how feasible is it to be able to have Blender do this for us, right? It's quite feasible. You can already tell actually that this is quite feasible by the fact that this object, we now have two objects in 3D space. Actually, I have a third one because I was doing a sketch for possibly another drawing over here. It simply doesn't matter. I'll just move it even further away from the camera. So we have, oh, you can see there's something up here. I don't know what that is. A stray line. That's interesting. I don't care about it right now. So you can see this is what we really want to do probably is actually project this onto something where this is more distant. But we can start to get an idea of how this might be useful to have 3D space. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this further away, and then you can see it indeed gets smaller because of course perspective. But I can just scale it right back to approximately where it was in our view previously. I could also choose though to maybe put some other objects in here. So for example, maybe I want to put some clouds, right? So I could add another grease pencil empty object, and I'm going to move this further back. And I could decide to actually, maybe this is all I want to do is actually use Blender for this. So I'm going to hide our owl again, focus on the scene. I'm going to turn up the color, the brightness of the background again. And I'm going to, actually I'm going to keep it a little bit darker because I want to be able to see that cloud. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sketch out some clouds. I don't actually want an outline around these, so I'm going to make a new material, and I'm going to call it cloudy. And cloudy is just going to be the simplest thing you could imagine. It's just a fill material. It's fairly white. Now, there are actually nice grease pencil brushes that handle this type of thing really well for us, and maybe we would actually prefer to use something like that. For the moment, we're just gonna make some experimental clouds. Now, once again, whether or not you have strength on kind of determines whether or not that's automatic. So at the moment, what I think I would like to do is I'm going to turn down strength to about this level. I'm going to draw some cloud shapes that I'm reasonably comfortable with. They don't have to be good. They don't have to be great. Just have to be good enough to work with. And then we can kind of we can start working with these. And we really only need a few of them. So by making it semi-transparent, I can actually kind of overlap them to interesting effect. I'm going to actually name this object, which, if you're responsible, you name your objects as soon as you're working with them. But you can see I'm not sufficiently responsible. I say to probably nobody's going to see the stage or the feed or of the stream because, it's been going on for a while. How many people are going to watch me do this art at this stage? You know, I'm just not happy with these cloud shapes. Which is funny, because they barely mean anything. So these are just two extremely boring, simple clouds. Right? But of course, I did not manage to differentiate them. I'm going to separate this. That's probably what I should have just done in the first place. Now I can move these around and determine what degree I care about them. I can actually move them on the y-axis, make them more and less distant to the character. And we can actually use this a little bit to decide how much of the background we want to put effort into. Maybe we don't actually want to do anything with these. You know, I could actually probably just decide to drop a lot of this, but for the moment, I've got a couple clouds. They're not very good, but they're probably good enough. So I'm going to go to Effect, and I'm going to go to Blur. And I'm going to, for these ones, I think I'm just going to put them at 12. I think I'm going to put it at, just to see what would happen, 100 by 100. Oh, I'm not seeing anything because I'm not in rendered mode. See, now that I moved into rendered mode, you can see the effect of the effect, right? A lot more significantly. You know, one thing you'll notice is that this cloud effect isn't, this blur effect isn't kind of beautiful compositionally, because they're kind of overriding each other's opacity instead of building up. You know, hold out helps a little bit for what I want to do, I guess. What I would really like is for these two things to build up on each other. I wonder if I actually have to join these to be able to make that effect. Not sure. You know, yeah. I guess I'm probably not providing that convincing of an experience of why 3D is interesting here. This is what it's like to actually, when I'm actually doing artwork. Mostly it's a game of uncertainty. Try to figure things out. Hey, okay, I see that at least one. Thank you, Chrysanthemum. Glad to see that you're tuning in again and that have some interest. Yeah, so I have some amount of landscape here. One of the things that I thought I might show off, and now I'm doubting myself, is the idea of showing off how you can do a lot of these things in 3D. But that might not matter. It might just not be important enough to pull off, to try to aim for that. I'm not certain. What I think I do know, though, is I want a big sky. So I'm going to add a plane. And I'm, oh my, what just happened here? Did I choose the wrong thing? Why did everything get so slow? Okay. I have a plane. Why did it take 1 billion years to produce this plane? I'm not sure. Let's switch to switch out of rendered view. That might have been it. I'm gonna add mesh plane. Does that take? That went way faster. I'm not sure if that was it. That led to that. At any rate, I'm gonna move this on the y-axis. Rotate it 90 degrees. scale it the heck up. You can probably tell that my computer's not really that good. I have a pretty crappy laptop. But, you know, this is probably good enough to... wow, everything's taking 1 billion years now. Why is everything so slow? You know, I'm at the phase where I'm considering what I want the sky to be like. And yeah, so we've basically got, by making this by making our world lighting color just be like, and have the strength be at 1, it's just blasting everything around it. And if I switch to textured, you'll see it's still, we've got world lighting on basically. So the background color is actually affecting how bright everything is. That's an okay-ish background color. Not quite what I want. Do you think I want to go for kind of that wintry feel color? I'm just going to mess with the hue a bit manually. It certainly shouldn't be green. Oh yeah, okay. Obviously there should be more clouds in the... I'm just going to block this out. I'm just going to get an idea of what I want. You know, I think it might actually be this effect. It's making everything so slow. I'm going to turn it off. See if everything gets faster again. Maybe. You know, sometimes I mess with these things enough and then I start to doubt myself a lot. The scene has gotten so much noisier now that we have a background and everything. What would happen if I just turn it off? They could just be in the sky. No background whatsoever. Or... that's older. Well, that's interesting. Actually, I like that. Yeah, there we go. That's the ticket. So I like this idea that the characters are flying, that there is a background, but the background is kind of unimportant. You know, it's kind of... it's not largely in view because the characters are soaring so high. This is starting to feel good. Okay, I'm behind this. I'm down with this. I'm gonna add a new collection. Call it clouds, and then dump my clouds in it. There we go. That's one of the things I think is nice about grease pencil. Is if I was using Krita or something like that, I could move the entire layer and move it off screen. But I don't know. There's something about just being able to grab an object and manipulate it in 3D space. And then, like, if I wanted to bring this back, I could just bring it back, and I can bring it back to whatever degree I want. You know, I'm gonna just, again, this is not the... I gotta... I'm gonna hear the Simpsons music appearing in a second. But Something like that I think is actually about right. I think that's about the composition I want. Um, yeah, this is feeling pretty good. Okay. And again, I'm not really using Blender's 3D tooling to the maximum here, but and maybe it didn't matter because I could have done all this in another program in with these just being layers. But one of the things I like about this is that I'm able to scale things up and down without again without it being like in a raster program where it would be destructive to scale up and down. You would lose information. I can just do that really freely here and not have to worry about it too much. So this is starting to feel like the right shape and design to me. Yeah, okay. So I don't think this is the actual you see, this was originally just sketch. Now it's the actual thing, right? Sometimes you might think that something's an object that just represents something impermanent, and then turns out you like it. So that could happen with this background. I don't know. What I think I want to do is I want to block out some colors in the background here, and I think I'm going to be pretty lazy about it. Yeah, let's be lazy. So this is going to be the sketch, and then we're going to do quick fills. We're going to go back to draw mode. And I'm just going to, for this one, switch this back to the, I'm going to add another one, which is, I'm just going to call this, I'm just going to call it quick fill material. What a good name. And I'm going to select fill. And I'm not going to actually select any color because what we're going to do is we're going to use the material color attributes to figure this stuff out. That way we can be really, really fast about it without having to spend a billion hours trying to figure out what we want. So for example, if I wanted to start with the grass first, right? Grass is like, just mark it like this. See how this is kind of like pretty sloppy. But again, I'm just trying to figure out what I want. Oh, I've got this on semi-transparent. It's probably not what I want for blocking out colors. Doesn't really matter too much. You know, for something that's just kind of producing sketchy garbage, this actually doesn't look too bad. You know, sometimes you do things where you're just doing quick tests, and then it turns out you like the quick tests, the way that you did it. And it turns out it wasn't a test in the end. It turned out that it was just you figuring things out fast, and you're pretty happy with it. Could that happen here? I don't know. not the worst, honestly. This is not turning out to be the worst at all. This feels very Sophie Jontek. If you've ever watched her videos, she does these beautiful watercolor-like things by. Oh, that's the wrong direction for the light. Okay, yeah. And the way that she accomplishes it is just a lot of semi-transparent materials, a lot of semi-transparent fills, and it just looks beautiful in the end. She's just so great. If you haven't taken the time to really improve your life by that's wrong. That's not the right thing to do there. By watching Sophie's videos, I recommend spending the time watching them. They're really good. I'm a huge fan. We had her on our podcast at one point on Foss and Crafts, and it was really fun. And she did a commission for us even. That was really nice. And so here I'm just doing fills like this until I get something that I like about how kind of abstractly covers this range of things, and that is not bad, actually. Huh. Yeah, okay. And now let's go with this this snow theme. What would happen if no. I should do the snow as a separate layer. Yeah, I think that's clear to me now. I definitely would want to do the snow as a separate layer. Except for in one area up here. I think it's fine to do this up here where we've got the snowy peaks. Let's hide that cloud. Let's hide all the clouds. Okay, now we can see what we're doing. Interesting. Oh yeah, this is really getting that. This is really leaning into that ice cream type thing, isn't it? Because the combination of that kind of like blue and then building up the more intense white, it's really abstracted. It looks pretty nice. Yeah. I kind of don't even mind that there's like this imperfection of the things back here not really lining up. This is feeling pretty nice to me. But I think that's all I want to do for the background right now, because I think I want to solve more about what's happening on the character. I really love Blender. I mean, that's probably pretty obvious. But I feel so empowered when I use Blender. And I think I kind of... It takes a while to feel empowered with Blender, I think, sometimes. Because... that's an interesting thing. Before I talk about that, you might notice how there's this weird thing. I tried moving into draw mode and it didn't work. Right, this thing, I selected it. I selected Goblin plus Owl flying and it didn't happen. That's because I actually am not working on that. I'm actually still working on the previous object, which was so I have to switch to object mode and then select it and then switch to draw mode. That's tricked me before. And you notice that it has a different color. One thing that you can do is you can do you can switch edit and turn off lock object modes. And then you're able to switch between objects much more easily with actually switching between them in the object view. Otherwise, also you kind of have to jump out to the object view and then jump in, and it's kind of weird process. So I think I've made quite a bit of progress. So I think I want to save this. I think I want to save the updates. So I'm going to say started blocking out background and clouds. Oh, I don't want to trigger the me entering my password thing over this stream. So I will commit that later. And in fact, actually, this is a good time to stop, I think. I think I will resume and do another completely independent stream where we will finish this up later tonight. But I think for right now, I'm feeling like this is pretty good. We've made some good progress. We start to really have a sense of what the scene looks like with color. And I'm feeling excited about that. So I'm going to say thank you. Especially thank you, Corsentin, for your for your very lovely comments that you've made so far, both on the previous video and this. It's always nice when you do something and then somebody's appreciating it. Makes it feel like it's worth its time. So I'm gonna stop the stream for now. Thanks so much, and we'll resume later in a new stream URL for part 3, where we hopefully finish things off.